everyone, and welcome to today's stream. It's the first stream back after we had a little break last week. I wasn't actually planning to have a break last week, but then, you know, life happens. I can't remember what happened on Wednesday. Nah, my brain's gone. But basically, yeah, we had a week off last week, but we are getting back into good old-fashioned stream schedule now with a brand new character to start us off. This is a very badass Drow. I believe they are a fighter, judging by the armor. I can't actually remember. Let me have a look at the reference material and I can tell you what they are. They are a Pathfinder swashbuckler. There we go. That is what they are. And yeah, we're going to have some fun getting on with the paint work for this character today. We have very cool kind of design influences and costume and stuff I really enjoy doing. So one of the first things I'm going to do is merge some of the line art together. I'm just going to delete this line here where the sword crosses over the front of the chest. And I don't think we've got any other overlaps, so that's good. So I'm just going to go ahead and merge these layers together to give us a single line art layer, making sure that's still set on multiply. We don't want that to switch to normal when we're not looking. Hi Rebel! Oh, thank you so much for the host. And yeah, I am doing very well, thank you. The plants are doing very well, thank you. Would you like to say hello to one of them? This is a little fellow I got last week. They are a Vricey era, I believe, which is a sort of bromeliad. Yes, occasionally this stream does turn into a plant information program. But look, aren't they pretty? And I got this cute pot from like a little local shop. I like to try and support local where I can. I could sit here all afternoon and show you various plants, but I won't. I will do some painting because that's what you're here for. Anyway, so the first thing I'm going to do, we are going to work on the character's kind of skin texture first. That's usually where I start. So I'm going to make a new layer, I'm going to label it skin, and yeah, we're just going to kind of kick off. Also, I must admit, in some ways it's sad, but today's like the first day we've had a proper downpour and it's been raining most of today, which is actually a great thing for streaming, because I have a great big window right there, right on that side of where I stream, and when it's a sunny day, my actual like lighting is just drowned out completely by my window light, and the garden needs rain, so rain is important. Dogs, cats, plants. Well, I can't disagree with you there. I am a dog person at heart. I adore puppers, but you know, I don't want to get a dog yet. We just moved into our new place. We've got a little house which does have a little garden, so eventually we want to get a dog here. But I kind of want to make sure that I have a sort of schedule I can keep to, and I'd feel kind of responsible enough before getting a pet like that, because the last thing I want to do is go get a dog and then find that I don't have the time to kind of devote to them, because I'd want to devote my waking life to a pet. Anyway, Drow. So for the skin texture, obviously when it comes to characters, this particular Drow has got a very kind of purple kind of skin texture going on. And when it comes to the more kind of fantasy colours, like purples or bright red tieflings, all that kind of stuff, it can be a little bit more difficult to put together a good colour for the skin. So I tend to kind of improvise with it. I kind of make it up as I go along sometimes with the more colourful ones. This is no exception. So we're going to basically start by grabbing a colour that I think looks about right for where I want to start. And from there, we'll probably end up altering it. So I'm just going to start off by grabbing this nice, rich, dark purple, and we will go from there. Making sure I'm on my normal brush tool. I think all my settings should be right, but just so I can kind of go through them again to show everyone my brush settings, I always basically start with the fourth brush down in general brushes. That's this one, hard round pressure size. Excuse me, and then I go into the brush settings. I want to go down to transfer. You want to make sure that is ticked. You want to make sure opacity jitter set to 0%, same with the pen pressure control. And then flow jitter is 0% and off. And these are the optimum brush settings I find useful for doing like 90% of my work. And then we're just going to start by painting in that base skin tone. And do let me know if music levels and audio and stuff is sounding good. I've had some issues with Streamlabs OBS being a bit weird lately when it came to balancing my music, so yeah. Just basically at this point I'm just doing like a color by numbers, making sure to try and stay inside the lines as best as possible, because obviously this character is Drow, so they are going to have lovely white hair when I get to that point. And when you've got a very strong contrast between your skin tone and your hair, it's even more important to get the kind of the boundary lines between those two areas really clean. Hey, seen my... Yeah, my day is going well. I spent about 2 hours in the bath earlier, so that maybe was not productive, but it's kind of part of my lockdown coping mechanism, you know. I just kind of wallow like a very pale hippopotamus every day. And the plants like that, because if you have a bathroom that gets quite humid and you take your houseplants in there, they can really benefit from the raised humidity levels. I sadly can't keep any plants in my bathroom because our bathroom does not have a window in it, so it doesn't have any natural light. Otherwise, I would fill my bathroom with plants if I could. Hey, thank you so much to Black Cherubim and to Jekyll66 for the follows and the subscription. Jekyll66, thank you so much for the sub. That's very, very kind. Subs make a massive difference to small streamers like me. They honestly make up a significant portion of kind of like income, so it helps out massively if you can throw your Prime subs at a small streamer. It'll make them very happy, I promise you. If you have Amazon Prime, that is. Oh, thank you so much. Let's just calm down and say it properly. Avin CNL, thank you so much for the sub. Yes, I'm very sorry for the absence last week. I wasn't planning to take a break. I just kind of did, and in some ways it was good. I got a ton of work done last week, including some good progress on my my secret projects, my secret NDA projects that I can't talk about, which helped my general stress levels with that a bit. But now I'm kind of back on commission stuff, which means I'm working through the last kind of portion of commissions in my old batch, and should be opening new commissions next week, which I'm very excited about. Also terrified because opening commissions is an admin nightmare. Any other artists who do commissions, I'm sure you relate. I really struggle with the admin side of doing commissions, but it's the part that needs to be done. Our maiden hair ferns are really nice. I haven't actually got one yet. I actually haven't got any ferns. I have quite a lot of Calathias now. I have 2 Monsteras. I have a little Monstera lineata. I have a couple of Alocasias, which are like, they're probably my most picky plants at the moment. It's my test for myself is, can I keep my Alocasias alive? If I can, then I will have graduated to competent plant mom. But they're so cute. Look, I gotta show you one. Look at this baby. Look at the little leaf. It feels like velvet. This is a black velvet alocasia. It's adorable, and I can't wait for it to grow big. If it does, I gotta keep it alive. Anyway, that was a little plant PSA. Let's get back to art. All my plants are like right next to me as well, which is a nice environment for working. I must say it's kind of helped my general mental health a bit. Well, the constant worrying as to whether that they might have bugs is not a sort of good mental health thing. Yeah, I've heard maiden hair ferns can be very picky. It's one of the reasons I haven't picked one up yet. I have enough plants which are notorious for being picky to grab anymore. Like, I've got a couple of Calathias, and some Calathias are pretty hardy, but some of them will just throw a tantrum at the slightest change in their environment. I've got a Calathea vittata baby that I picked up a couple of weeks ago, like at a great price. And since I repotted it, it's not doing well. That's probably my least happy plant right now, and I think it's because I repotted it and it just hadn't got over the shock of moving yet. Alright, there is the base skin tone for the face. I'm just going to pop in the skin colours on the other areas of bare skin, such as the hands, and then we can get into the fun part, which is doing like the tonal stuff and the shading. Yeah, Equinox 4, that's totally fair. I'm actually planning to take fewer commissions in this go round, so that I can open up again sooner. Because honestly, it's just an organizational nightmare to take like 6 to 9 months work up front, and have to essentially, when you're getting towards the end of the list, try and get in contact with people from 9 months ago. People have changed usernames, people change their email addresses, so some people just never reply. So it makes that kind of last month or two, like I spend so much time trying to track people down. Which reminds me, if you were in the last batch and you did kind of get a slot confirmed from my last batch that I took back in October, and you haven't heard from me yet, do please get in touch, because I'm trying to get in touch with everyone from the last batch to make sure that I have everyone who did reserve a commission slot and still wants it signed off. Yeah, it can be a lot. When I open commissions, I get hundreds of messages. And because it's spread across several platforms, I kind of have to coordinate all those at the same time. So I am going to be changing how I do commissions a little bit. I'm probably going to be doing it via Google Forms, so that everyone goes through the same route. That'll probably allow me to avoid the scope creep that I did last time, ending up with more kind of commissions and stressing myself out by trying to get them all done. So yeah, I'm going to try and be super organized this time. I mean, I was pretty organised last time, I just didn't really expect to get quite so many, which means a ton, and I'm very, very, very grateful for it, but it's not that I'm very bad at organising myself, it's just I literally struggle to remember things. I have a bad memory, and possibly, I mean, I'd love to get tested for ADHD, but it's just, getting tested for that kind of thing over in the UK takes months and months and months, and it's just a whole headache, so I'm probably just going to cope the best way I can for now. Anyway, we have now filled in the areas of bare skin, which means we are ready to start painting. So what I'm going to do, the first thing anyone should do when you get to this stage, make sure that the layer you just painted on has this little button up here, this little button at the top. You want to tick that, and it basically means that you cannot paint outside of the areas you've already kind of designated as painted, which really, really helps for speeding things up and just stops you going over lines and stuff. Excuse me, my hair is escaping from my headphones. Okay, so just kind of studying my ref material a little bit. I'm going to take a slightly different approach with this one because I don't have a pre-prepared palette for the skin tone. I'm going to use ever such a slightly different order of operations. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a slight blush to the cheeks, which means I'm going to raise this little marker towards the pink and the red and grab a slightly more saturated colour. It's almost the same as the base coat tone. It's very similar, it's just a little bit more pink. You can kind of see as it comes in. And I'm just going to pop these on the cheeks. This can help avoid the kind of doll-like look or the kind of plasticky look to the skin tone. If you look like you've actually got some kind of blood under the skin in order to kind of have this blush effect, it can kind of add a lot of life to a character's face. Avin CNL, you probably have the question asked quite a lot, but where did I learn art? It's a bit of a weird one. I didn't learn art at any one particular place. I've been drawing since I was a little kid. I was very, very lucky that my family encouraged this, and they kind of encouraged kind of artistic hobbies and stuff. My grandma used to buy me a lot of the books that you see at like little gift shops or garden centres, which have like very simple, learn to draw dogs, or like how to draw horses. And it does that thing where they start with lots of egg shapes, or they start with lots of circles and join them together, and then by the end of it you've got a kind of rudimentary horse or whatever. I used to have so many of those books, and that was how I kind of learned to draw a lot of things, with those sort of guides. I loved them so much as a kid. Like, I would tear through those books and draw everything in them. I also had a lot of books on like dragons and fairies. In fact, I'm trying to remember the artist's name. There is a well-known artist who drew like flower fairies in really cute little costumes. And I used to basically copy her work when I was a kid because I thought it was so cute. Similar with dragons, I had books like, if anyone remembers the Dragonology series or Field Guide to Dragons. Those massively inspired me when I was a kid. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to start doing some shading, which means I'm bringing in a new layer, set to clipping mask, and multiply. And I am grabbing kind of a pale greyish pink just to start doing some shading. But yeah, in terms of formal training, obviously I took art as a subject when I was at school. Depending on whether you're from the US or UK, obviously our school systems are a little bit different. You kind of start getting taught art a little bit more seriously when you get to about 14, 15. In the UK, when you take your GCSEs, which are kind of like the first time you pick subjects specifically that you want to kind of study as you get older and you start thinking about careers and stuff. But even then, I was never really taught things like anatomy or how to draw. It was always studying artists' work. A bit like English literature doesn't really necessarily focus on teaching you how to write creatively, if that makes sense. Oh, hang on, I should probably bring up my reference while I'm doing this. So I would say I've never really had formal training on how to draw. I just kind of did it and drew things that I was passionate about, and did that for about 15 years. And that's kind of how I got to where I am now. I did go to university. I studied animation and visual effects. So a lot more of that time was devoted to learning software and animation techniques. There wasn't really much learning to draw. We did have life drawing lessons, which I would say is probably the most useful formal art lesson you can have, in terms of teaching you anatomy and kind of learning to draw quickly and do gesture drawings and that kind of thing. What was I doing? Oh, yes. But other than that, I wouldn't recommend going to an art school if you want to learn how to draw or paint. I think there are better ways to do it, especially these days. There are so many online kind of courses you can take, or artists who are much, much better and more experienced than me, who record their work and put it on YouTube and stuff. I do not think it's necessary to go to art school to kind of do what I did. In fact, when I went to uni, my goal was to work for big TV companies or games companies, which I did do for a bit. I worked for a couple of games companies, and that was a very good experience, and it kind of helped me save up money and stuff. I also worked for like a creative advertising company, which really wasn't my sort of thing. I don't really like the marketing industry very much. So you start off having to do things that aren't necessarily what you like doing. Unfortunately, that's just part of the gig while you're building up your portfolio. Just going to start adding a bit of shading around here and slightly lighter tone. But yeah, this was probably a little bit more in depth than you were looking for. But that's kind of a very kind of vague thing about how I kind of got where I am now. But if you have any other questions, I'm more than happy to go into more detail about any specific part. But I was very lucky, and I was very privileged to have a family that supported kind of painting and art, and me kind of following that. I was very lucky. My grandma was an artist. Well, not professionally. She was a hobby artist, but she was very good at it. So she kind of used to, she would get me like cheap art materials, and she'd get me like books and stuff when I was a kid. So I was, you know, I definitely came from a position of luck and privilege to kind of get where I am. Alright, just kind of adding a bit of definition around the jaw area. Again, I kind of want to keep this shading fairly gentle for now, as we kind of start to build up the kind of contours of the face. And it comes to about this point where, no, actually I'm not going to do that. I'm going to introduce a few more shadows, and then we're going to start going in and adding a wee bit more detail and merging some of these layers together. Now, as I do shadows, as I go darker, I'm kind of moving towards colder colours, because you tend to find shadows, especially in this region of the face, can be colder. Just kind of adding a bit of deeper shadow in a few areas, especially around the eyes. You always get very dark shadows in the corners of the eyes. There we go. Alright, so what I'm going to do now, as we kind of start making progress with this, is I am going to now, you kind of see that little shadow layer as we're building up the shapes. I'm now going to merge that down into the skin layer. So at this point, it's a lot easier to now blend some of these tones, like so. And we can get a nice kind of smooth graduation between the different colours. A lot of my style is very much about endless blending, as I'm sure anyone familiar with this channel is now very aware of, because I am sure it's quite tedious at times. But I'm very grateful that you choose to watch me anyway. Thank you all very much. Alright, now I've kind of made that area a bit gentler, we can do the same on the other side. Oh, overcaffeinated Sliv, thank you so much. That's very, very kind. I'm in such a D&D mood lately. I have D&D tonight. I'm playing Riza this evening. Riza is my baby, and I adore playing her whenever I can. And I recently, you probably saw on if you're following my Twitter, I just designed a new character for like a mini game I might be joining soon. Hair in my face again. Who is a Dragonborn, and I haven't played Dragonborn before, so this will be a lot of fun. Hey, the Steel Fox, welcome to the stream. Alright, I'm just going to blend in some of these shadows a little bit. Obviously, we do get more shadow on this side of the face. This side of the face is slightly kind of in shadow itself, so I'm going to be introducing more dark colours. Maybe the treasures are blending with it along the way. The corners of the mouth, you tend to get some fairly deep shadows in. It kind of depends on the face shape, really. This particular chap does have quite deep mouth frowns, I call them. Alright, it's coming on quite nicely. I think we do need a little bit more blending here and there. You can see kind of how close we are as she zoomed into this piece. A lot of this detail won't be as visible when we zoom out a bit, but I'm a stickler for detail, so I put it in anyway. Again, blend, 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 blend. And again, that face shape's coming together quite nicely now. As always, it does need a bit more blending, but we can just pop in and do that. Alright, and it's going to give the forehead a bit of love as well, actually. Do with a bit more attention. And there we go, you kind of now see how it's coming together. Excuse me. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go a tiny bit darker with the shadow. It's all about kind of building up light and dark with this kind of thing. You don't want to start too light or too dark. You want to gradually get there with layers of colour, just so it looks a whole lot smoother. That's if you're doing this sort of style. If you're going for a more cel-shaded style, you can absolutely jump between light to dark. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Oh, no problem, I've been NCL. Are you playing Monster Hunter? I got back into Monster Hunter World earlier this week. I've been playing with my little brother. I picked up Monster Hunter Rise. I am quite far in, I think. But I really like Monster Hunter Rise. I just, the controls on World are just smoother. I can't... the Switch is just never going to be quite as zappy for me, quite as like quick. Oh, my Fringe is really in my face. Oh, a new update came out. Oh, I'll have to download that. Nice, sweet. I'll have to check that out later. Just gonna pop in a few rudimentary shadows on the neck for now. I tend to do the neck after I'm done with the face, but I just want to suggest some shadow for now, just so it doesn't look too unfinished while I'm working on the rest. Just gonna make sure to save. Saving is very important and grown up and the best thing to do. Awesome. So, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm just kind of looking at my ref material. I think the next thing to do is going to be add some highlights. So we're going to make a new layer above the skin. We're going to make sure it's set to a clipping mask. We're going to keep it on normal. Grab that base skin color. No, we want to go to all layers. And we are just going to take a slightly lighter version of it. I'm going to keep the increments, again, fairly small. Sometimes when I have a kind of a pre-prepared colour palette, I'll be a bit more daring. But for now, we are just going to gently introduce light. Just going to add a highlight on cheekbones. Cheekbones always attract light. Gonna blend that in. Gosh, I'm going through that phase of trying to grow out a fringe, and it's driving me a little bit crazy. Alright, so we've kind of got that gentle highlight, kind of see the difference that makes there. I'm going to add it in a few more places before we start getting a bit more adventurous and amping it up. Such as that. And we're also going to get it on the chin. So I'll switch to a big brush for that. And then again, blending it in. Okay, getting some nice shape coming in now. I am just going to reaffirm the shadows under the chin because we're losing them just a tiny bit. Oh my goodness, Rebel, thank you so much for the sub gifts in chat. That is so very kind. Everyone who has just received a sub, you can now probably access our Discord. Wait, no, that was not, what am I doing? This is why my brain can't concentrate on multiple things. So if you have just received a gift sub, do check out the Discord and come hang out. It's very, very kind, very kind of Rebel. Thank you so much. And thank you so much as well to, oh gosh, I've missed some alerts sometime. Thank you so much for Doodle Jewel for the host, to Arguin for the subscription, and just thank you all so much. This is a wonderful first stream back after a bit of a break. Oh, Rebel, no. You are a wonderful Twitch viewer. Thank you so much for all of your support. You're always just one of the most wonderful supportive people here, so thank you so much. Okay, let's take some of this light. No, that wasn't light. That was dark. We're just going to drag it up the side of the jaw a little bit. There we go. Yep, that's nice. And we'll do the same with some of the soft shadows, although we will use a smaller brush to do so. Just so we've got a little bit more kind of shadow kind of playing around there. Still grayed out Discord panel. I'm not sure then. Our Discord's been a bit flaky lately. We've had to, you know, some people have had to basically just wait until it lets them back in. I don't know why. I think it's just Discord being Discord lately. Let's cover up that little patch of lost opacity. Okie dokie. Oh, the Steel Fox, yeah, I totally feel that. Right now, I had a Fringe cut back in July. It's now basically like this long. It goes over the entirety of my face, but it's not long enough for my headphones to pin back, and it's a nightmare. But anyway, we're making good progress. I think the next thing I want to do is introduce some more light. Gradually moving up the forehead. What light do I want to pop on the forehead? The forehead light's going to be cold. Because I said so, and because I'm trying it out. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm making it up as I go along, like normal. Tally, do I have any advice in looking for LARP groups? Firstly, I would say think about what LARP you're interested in. Are you interested in parlor style LARP, which is high kind of politics, wordplay and intrigue? Are you interested in festival style LARPs, which are more like Empire, which is like big plot, camping? Your own character might not have as much impact on the story, but it's more like a big event. And once you kind of know what sort of LARP you're into, then you can kind of search based on what's local to you, what you're interested in. It's a scary thing to get into. When I first started LARPing, I didn't know anyone else who did it at all. I had one friend I arranged to go to our first ever LARP together with, and he bailed due to personal issues at the last minute, so I was completely alone when I went to my first LARP, and I was genuinely terrified. It was a Vampire the Masquerade LARP that was fairly local to me. It's like a beautiful house in Bristol. Basically it was amazing. I made some fantastic friends that night, and I still play with them to this day. So it's a terrifying thing. Really, really scary. But if you can kind of go along and try it out, then that's kind of the best way to get into it. And I probably wouldn't have gone if it had just been me. I kind of had to go. My friend kind of pulled out. I could have not gone. I could have easily said, you know what, I don't think I want to do this on my own. But I kind of just went and did it. And I'm very glad I did. Also, evil weapons are so overrated. The evil is in the person wielding them. No, I'm kidding. I love evil weapons. I've actually given my Warlock in my campaign. I'm running like a mini one-shot to introduce some friends to Roll20. And my partner is playing a Hexblade Warlock of Desirat, the kind of infernal phoenix creature from the Wildmount lore. And it's really interesting. I'm very much looking forward to see how it goes. It's a shame it's only one shot because I put a lot of heart into the characters I made for the party. But I even know that. I don't know if any of the DMs out there, if you do one shots and you kind of make characters for your party, do you also like put loads of effort into characters which are only going to be there for like 2 sessions? Because I can't help myself. And it makes me sad because then I'll never see these characters again. Maybe the real evil is the friends we made along the way. Maybe indeed. Oh no, Endless Wanderings, that's terrifying. Yeah, I always do that though. When I am going to a LARP or a party or anything like that, I always quadruple check I have the night right. And even then, I convince myself that, but what if I'm wrong? adding a little bit of light. Again, building it up gradually. Being a little bit more cowardly with this one because, again, I don't have a pre-prepared palette for the colours, so it's very much a slow and exploratory process as I kind of work out what colours I want and how it's going to come together. Hey, Dungeon Tomb, don't worry about it. You know, we learn and, you know, kind of pick up things as we go along. Personally, I don't ever really, I never really do my Drow as evil. No race is inherently evil the way I play D&D, so I don't like to typecast any one kind of group like that. This character, let me see if I can find some more details about them. Yes, because this character is a swashbuckler, a Pathfinder swashbuckler. I do not have a lot of experience with Pathfinder, I will say that now. I've played a lot of D&D, but I haven't played Pathfinder. This particular character is a kind of a roguish, kind of prince type character. It sounds like he possesses the brain cell of the group. But it's otherwise a pretty sweet character. These swords in particular, there's quite a lot of detail in them from the commissioner. I believe they're quite interesting, the blades for this. They're very kind of icy themed, and I believe they've got some magic dispelling properties, so there's a bit of background info on the character. Oh my god, Aim was wondering, because that's amazing though. When I went to my first ever Larp, I was very similar in that I turned up in costume, really desperately hoping I was in the right place, because if I wasn't, then I was just dressed as a Victorian urchin for no particular reason. And that would have been weird. Thankfully, I was in the right place. I was not dressed as a Victorian urchin for no reason. Do I play this character in game? Phil Grant, no, I don't actually. This character is a commission. Yeah, they belong to the commissioner. But I do very much love me a swashbuckler style character. They're very fun to paint. I'm kind of developing one at the moment. I'm in a D&D group that is starting loads of new games soon. And I'm lucky enough to be invited to most of them. And one of them, I'm hopefully going to be playing a Eladrin ranger, who's going to be a Fey Wanderer type ranger, who's probably going to be the kind of dual rapier build type character, similar to this character. And then in the other campaign, I'm going to be playing probably a draconic lineage sorcerer, or storm sorcerer. I haven't decided between those two yet. And they're going to be a dragonborn. So I'm trying to play new things. I have a really bad habit of just making tieflings. A lot of folks know me as the person that paints a whole lot of tieflings. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to, you want to play something else for a change. Love tieflings. Oh, thank you so much, Filigrant. That's very, very kind. Okay, let's bring a bit more of this light across the bridge. A bit there. Just want to bring it across under the eye somewhat. A little bit on the lip. We're going to be painting the nose very soon, so don't worry about the apparent lack of detail on the nose. Tiny bit on the chin. And I'm just going to expand the highlights on the forehead as well. Foreheads tend to be the brightest part of the face, so. They're like it feels rude because I was, teased about having a large forehead when I was a kid, but they really do kind of reflect a lot of light like billboards. Okay, I think that'll do us for now. I'm thinking I might make the overlines layer now so I can start playing with some side lighting soon. But what I want to do first is I'm basically just going to take this dark shadow color and use that to try and minimize the line art along the jaw. I've been doing this a lot lately, making more use of the overlines layer to basically cut back on the amount of line art that's visible in the end piece. And and I find it helps lend to a more like painterly end result that can look quite nice. Okay, so what to do next? I might just take some of this brightness along here a tiny bit. And at this point, I'm just going to drag up my reference as well. I want to have a look. I thought there would be a bit of light there. There's also going to be a bit of highlight I missed out just here. Which comes across. I'm barely touching the tablet right now. I'll try and keep it super light. Just adds a little bit more shape to the face down here rather than it looking gaunt. So it's quite important to pop it in there. And there we go. Just a little bit more definition going on. And I'm actually going to minimize some of the heavy shadow here because my reference model doesn't have quite so much shadow coming in there. Shadow mostly kind of comes down from the corner of that mouth. There we go. Yeah, that's a bit better. Fey Wanderers sounds like such a fun class. I'm really excited to give it a go, actually. Since I first read it, I was like, oh yeah, this is perfect for the character I want to play. I'm very excited to give it a try. Nice. Let's just add a tiny bit more shadow on this side. And blend it in, of course. And then, I think it's nose time. What we're going to do, we're going to blend down both of these kind of highlight layers. And we're going to make a new layer. We're going to, as usual, make sure, no, we're not going to merge it down. That would be silly. We're going to create clipping mask, make sure it's stuck on normal, and we're going to paint in the nose. I'm going to start with the more pinky tone that we used elsewhere as like the base for the nose. I'm going to ignore the shadow from the hair for now. That is not necessary. And then using my, what I call the Animal Crossing method, just fill in the basic area of the nose to start with. And then we can worry about blending it into its surroundings. Which mostly is pretty easy because we've kind of got the hair dividing it off from the rest of the face. And you're right, do not forget to save. Thank you very much for the reminder. Okay, next step, we need to grab a dark color. Often I find when I'm doing shadows around the nose, you want your shadows to kind of be pushed in the red or pink direction. Actually, I just realized my chair isn't all the way down. No wonder I'm having to keel over. Yes, because you get more kind of blood vessels around the nose, like quite near the surface. That's why nosebleeds happen so much. And then we're just going to start gently adding the shadow in. Like so. And again, this is where it really helps to have solid reference. I always have reference when I'm doing portraits. Don't leave home without one. Alright, and that's basically our basic shadows. Lezo, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you have a lovely week, and I look forward to hopefully catching you on Friday. Yeah, so once we've kind of got this basic shape and basic structure down, just a little bit more detail there, we can add the kind of the shape of where the nostril comes around the side, and then just kind of soften and blend that in a bit. And then just kind of generally blend this area, because it's not going to be a hard line. If you keep your nose shadow lines too hard, your character can end up looking a bit like a fawn or like a deer-nosed character, which have the darker underneath. Okay. Now I'm just going to do a bit of blending here also. There we go. And what I am going to do, I'm going to bring some of that shadow down, almost kind of join that area, just because we had too much uninterrupted light. Oh, that's much better. Okay, next step is to add light. We're going to grab not the lightest highlight we can, but a fairly light kind of highlight. I'm going to identify the lightest part of the nose. Just kind of here. And then we're going to add kind of a stripe coming down from the bridge of the nose. And then kind of start just blending all this in a little bit. The Dungeon Maker, thank you so much for the sub. That is very, very kind of you. Thank you very much for joining us and for the sub there. Alright, and then I'm just going to introduce a little bit of light on the nostril too. Zoom out, make sure the shape's kind of making sense. It mostly is. It looks a little bit bulbous thanks to the shape of the highlight, but we can train that back. And blend it away a little bit. There we go, that's a slightly better shape for that. And again, softening edges where we need to. And this particular reference model has some real bright light going on. Kind of in a stripe going down here. I'm going to experiment with it. I might not keep it. Just like a basic plain like that, but I don't like that, so I'm actually going to get rid of it. Sometimes, in the interest of getting the effect you want, you actually need to ignore your reference. Although I don't recommend doing that too often. I'm going to reduce some of these shadows along here and blend some of the shadows on the right hand side. Wonderful. Now we are ready to introduce that bright light again. I'm going to just kind of studying where I want to do this. Where do you want to do this? Oh, that blobbed over to the side a bit more than I wanted it to. And then blend, 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 blend. Okay, a bit better, not perfect. We've kind of got this dark shape in the middle of our highlight, which I do not like. There we go, that's a bit better. And then we can take that brightness all the way down from the top because we've got quite a lot of light coming down from there. Wonderful. And there we have a nose. So the next thing to do is minimize some of this heavy line art around the outside because I'm trying to get into the habit of keeping my line art a little bit lighter. Call it natural kind of stylistic evolution, if you will. I'm going to grab a kind of a dark colour that we've already used in the paintwork and just paint clean over the line art. Again, with a very faint brush, so we're not completely getting away from those dark values because they are quite useful and good to have. So for example, here they kind of are fading into the kind of shadow of the area behind the nose. Just gonna add a little bit of eye detail while I'm here, why not? Oh, Strixon Breaker, thank you so much, that's very kind. This should actually drop a little, like that. There we go, that's a better shape. The eyelid, to be fair, this eyelid could also do with a bit of TLC. Let's just grab a larger brush for a second. Slightly lighter colour, these do not need to be quite so deep and dark and gloomy. Okay, there we go. And then what we can do is we can grab that lighter colour we've already used, just to, I'm just going to add a little, I know I'm supposed to be working on the nose right now, but I've been distracted. Add some light back into those eyelids. Same down here. There we go, starting to get some nicer shapes going on in the face. And then I'll return to what I was actually doing, because we need to add in some real dark colour for the nostrils, where they kind of fade into shadow. Kind of there. And we get a hint of it over here as well. I don't want to make it too harsh. Often you kind of learn when you're kind of working on portraits, trying to make nostrils as dark as they appear on photographs never really looks very good. It ends up looking like you've got two pitch dark holes in the middle of your face, which I've always found a bit of a challenge because I want to make the nostrils dark. It doesn't make sense, but I find stuff just looks better if you don't go too dark too quickly. Alright, there we have a nose happily rendered. So the next thing I usually do after noses is lips. Again, with fantasy skin tones, you have to experiment a little bit to get, gosh, you can see me literally holding my hair out of my face. Sometimes you have to experiment a little bit to get the colours and tone that you want. Usually when I'm painting masculine character lips, and they're not wearing much makeup, I will just start with a fairly dark colour from elsewhere in the image for the upper lip. And for the lower lip, I will grab a colour that's just a little bit darker than the surrounding skin tone, because you don't want to be too dark if you're going for a masculine look to the character. Alright, you can already see that that lip's a bit dark. What I'm going to do is grab this lighter skin tone from over here, and I'm going to put some of that back, gently dragging it across into the lip itself. And this is an excellent time to discuss the fact that this is an example of where the line art can make the rest of the piece look a little bit weird, because it's too heavy and doesn't fit the kind of realistic feel we've got for the rest of the image. Oh, my hair is driving me unhappy. Nope, still not good enough. Let's try and get as much of that out of the way as possible. That will do. Anyway, where was I? Lips. So we're going to jump straight onto that overlines layer, and we're immediately going to start minimizing the line art. It's just construction lines now. Don't need it anymore. Immediately softening that starts to have a good effect. We can also minimize some of the shadow around the corner of the mouth, which will help it look a little bit better. There we go, that's getting there now. Lovely. So what I tend to do is I tend to grab the top lip colour and use that to shape the bottom lip to start with. I'm actually going to stick on the overlines layer because we've got to the point where we've boxed ourselves into a corner because we've done quite a lot on the overlines layer. It means painting on layers beneath it will be more difficult. Okay, just starting to kind of have the lip come together. And because we're on the overlines layer, the benefit of that is we can change the basic shape and structure of some things because we're no longer kind of restrained by the line art, if that makes sense. Alright, we need to do some more blending here for sure. This line is way too harsh. That's better. Lovely. I'm going to give some love to the top lip now. We've done a lot of work on the bottom lip. Just going to grab a darker version of that same colour. There we go. Again, the side that's in shadow is going to be a little bit darker. We do need to get that nice, we do need to get some dark colours going on this bottom lip for sure. I almost want to bring this whole side over a bit. I know that's not quite how it needs to look, but I'm just kind of exploring what it might look like. And again, always making sure to keep blending when we introduce new colours. Okay, that's a bit better. A little bit harsh, we can bring a bit of light back in there, just up here. But not too much. It needs to be subtle. That's the thing about painting the more kind of fantasy skin tones. It's easy to lose the subtlety. But we're gonna try and keep it looking nice and neat. Oh my god, my hair. Why is it doing this so badly today? Immediately just pops right back in front of my face. I need hair clips. Okay, anyway, we're nearly done with lips. I want to just work with a bit more darkness first. I would say if you're going for a realistic style, never go straight on with pure pitch black. Pitch black does not really exist as a natural color. It should always be kind of derivations of brown or purple. And you'd be surprised how often to get a nice looking brown you actually need to use a dark red or a dark purple. Like straight up brown often doesn't come across as well. Alright, anyway, I'm quite pleased with those lips. I'm going to add some little highlights. See how they look. You kind of see we did like all of that on the overlines layer in the end. So we're gonna have just a few little highlights up there. That's a bit extreme, that. We'll keep it subtle. Subtlety is the name of this particular game. In fact, we almost want to just blend around there too. Alright, wonderful. I'm going to save again, because it's very important. Big and clever to save. A little bit more just work around here. Just trying to get this area looking nice and smooth, whilst also having enough kind of variation in tone so it doesn't look plasticky. But I'm pretty pleased with that. I think, yeah, there's a little bit of mess over there to tidy up. So save before we can go on and paint in the eyes. And eyes are great fun to do. So first thing to do, I'm just going to merge down these two layers. We're happy with them after all, so they can stay. And then we're going to go back to the overlines layer just for a little spell, as I'm going to add a bit of detail around the eyes. Whoops, don't need to bring up brush settings. What I do need to do is grab a small brush, and I'm just going to basically use this to emphasize the eyelids and the lashes. And grabbing a slightly darker version for the other side of the face, which is more in shadow. I believe this character is a Pathfinder swashbuckler. So technically not a Dungeons and Dragons character today. I know, it's a scandal. Alright, fantastic. And then I'm going to grab that bright highlight and just pop in a little light in the corner of the eyes, which you often get. Okay, just give a bit of life. Lovely. So this means we are now ready to work on the eyes themselves. I believe that this character has kind of blood red coloured eyes. Yeah, they do. Nice. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with a very dark kind of reddish purple and just paint that all over the area where our eyes are going to be. This is going to be the base for the kind of sclera. Eyes, like, the anatomy of eyes has really cool names. Alright, once those are filled in, I'm going to make sure the layer is locked, and we're going to start working our way up the spectrum and adding in kind of the highlights to the sclera. Remembering to save, very important. Thank you very much, the Dungeon Tomb, for the reminder. I did last week was it last week? Might have been the week before. I think I mentioned it on stream last time. I had the dreaded moment that all artists hate, where they get really into the zone of working on a piece, and then Photoshop crashes. And they're like, oh damn, I was so kind of concentrating on the painting that I haven't saved in actually hours. And it's the worst feeling. Alright, so again, moving up, slowly introducing lighter tones. I'm going to drop down a brush size to just pop a tiny bit in there. A bit in that corner too. And then sometimes you need to do a little bit of blending just to get that natural graduation looking nice. I'm going to leave the whites there for now and work on, I suppose, what we would call the reds. I'm going to start with a very dark pinky red. I usually start quite dark when painting eye colours. Kind of see how it looks out zoomed out. The next thing to do is I grab an almost black and jump up to that overlines layer, add in the pupil. Just going to jump down to a small brush for a minute, where I basically then integrate the pupil into the iris by creating a bit of a gradient where it's very dark at the top and the pupil almost blends into the top of the eye there. And sometimes, again, you might want to kind of use the new colours you've created just to create a slightly more gentle gradient there. And I'm just going to minimise the edge lines a little bit, just to make them a little softer. And then we can actually start adding a bit more intensity into the colour. So I'm going to go up and grab a much lighter red. Whoops, not going to zoom in that much. I'm going to jump down to a size 4 brush, very small brush. And then starting with a gentle ring around the bottom half of the pupil. Starting to add the brighter tones of red. Kind of radiating out from that central point a little bit. And then we can do that again. We can grab a much lighter one and just add some points of saturated light in one side. And then what I kind of like to do sometimes is I'll grab a desaturated, very grey colour, add that to the other side. Very gently, and then I can eye drop from that. Now you can kind of see the red eyes coming together. I'm going to make another, because I like to kind of play with when I'm painting eyes a bit. All the different reflections they can have is good fun. But I think I might keep these ones simple. Again, it's a full body piece, so by the time you zoom out, it's not quite as noticeable. I'm going to grab a very, very light, almost white colour. Oh, excuse me, a small brush. And add just a little light highlight in the corner of the eye. Just to give them, you know, a bit of life. And there we go on the eyes. So looking at this chappy, the next thing to do is probably going to be eyebrows and hair. I'm going to do the eyebrows, but before I do hair, I'm going to go ahead and do some rendering on the rest of the skin. Because I like to kind of get one thing done before I start another, you know? And eyebrows tend to be on the skin layer anyway, so... what I tend to do with eyebrows is I start with a desaturated purple. And this is for white hair in particular. I've painted so many characters with white hair lately, I'm realising. I must have gone through this process on stream many times by now. But yeah, I'm basically just roughly filling in the areas of the eyebrows I've marked out in the line art already. You can kind of see that. Then I'm going to grab a slightly cooler purple grey to pop in some very gentle shadows. We've already got a fairly dark colour, we don't need to make it too much darker. Then travelling up through the spectrum as we grab lighter colours. I'm going to grab a slightly lighter pink, jump up to overlines, and use this to kind of highlight the brows a little bit. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go down to the line art and actually going to get rid of some of it. Just to make the top of the brow a bit gentler. Hey Damien S, hello from France. Or, well, hello to France from the UK. Okay, we have eyebrows. Let's go back to the skin. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get these ears done. When Photoshop decides it wants to play. Starting with a dark colour right in the inner ear, fading out a bit to still a dark purple, but not quite such a dark purple to shade around the outsides. Whoops, I've just realised that my canvas is no longer locked. Let's just lock that quickly. We've got this dark colour here, we want to blend into that, so we're going to just grab some of that for some of the dark areas of the ear. And then blend in those colours. Adding more kind of shadow and light where necessary. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and add some light to the top part of the ear and the tip. And I'm actually going to do some of the overlines. A little in the inner ear too. Not much, just a little bit to suggest the shape. And there we have an ear. So with that we can kind of continue down the neck. I'm going to go straight in with a dark colour. One of the darkest shadow colours we've used already. Because this bit under the chin here is going to be very dark. Just marking out the basic shape of our shadows before I kind of get stuck in with the in-between colours, really. Making sure the shape and the general direction of the neck ligaments is correct. Again, sometimes we've got to hop in, reaffirm the darker areas. Like so. And then I'm actually going to take some really nice dark purple just to pop on that corner of that side of the neck. And then finally, a slightly lighter purple for coming up this side here. And slightly minimizing how dark this bit is because I do remember that the light is coming roughly kind of from the left hand side. So. Okay, Okay, so there's the face and the neck and the ear. Let's quickly give some love to the hands. Just going to start by roughly darkening the part that's kind of underneath the blade, because that's going to attract shadows a little bit more naturally. So grabbing that nice dark shadowy purple. Whoops, wrong tool. Smaller brush. Again, it's just a case of, with enough reference and observation, you kind of start to learn where these shadows are going to appear. How often do I tend to draw backgrounds? Most of the time, certainly for commissions, I don't offer backgrounds with commissions, purely because they are extremely time consuming and would add a lot to the price that most people probably wouldn't want to pay. I'm talking about several hundred, because backgrounds take many hours. But I do them occasionally for other things. I've done them. I'm slowly working on a bit of fan art of Jester Lavore from Critical Role, which has a background on it. I'm also doing, like I mentioned a few times, some NDA work, which I cannot talk about exactly what it is, but that is also potentially going to involve backgrounds too. But for basic character designs, I don't do backgrounds with. And the reason I kind of do that is I've come from a game art background. I used to be a concept artist and CG artist for video games companies. And when it comes to pure character design, oftentimes background doesn't really factor in. It's all about communicating the ideas of the character design and doing it quickly and efficiently, so you don't want to spend time working on parts that aren't important for that. And that's kind of translated into the style of how I do my D&D character presentations, really. Okie dokie. I think this one's going to be a case of jump on the overlines layer and start minimizing the lineup, because if you're not careful, it can end up looking a little bit cel shady. So I'm just going to paint clean over a lot of this lineup. I'm going to go up to slightly larger brush. Okay, and then I'm going to do kind of the opposite. I'm going to grab a lighter colour and add that to the tops of the fingers, because they are very much going to be catching the light at this angle. It's even going to be a little bit light coming in from the side there, so. I might even use this to minimize this kind of crease in the middle of the hand here. Just isn't particularly accurate, so I'm going to minimize that. Sometimes you realize later on that something you did in your line art or your sketch actually wasn't great, and you need to correct it later on, because you know, you see things at different times. Okay, let's do some fingernails. This character's fingernails are going to be... Has the commissioner really mentioned anything about that? No, they're probably going to be slightly lighter. That's when you don't wear any kind of nail varnish. Often the base colour of nails can be slightly lighter than the surrounding flesh. Going to add a tiny bit of shine to those. Lovely, that's one hand down, one hand to go. So once again, this hand's slightly lower down, so straight from the start, I'm just going to make it slightly darker before going in with our shadows. comes to shading hands or folds in clothing, anything like that, which is quite complex and often I would have used to have need a reference for, like right next to the page. The way I kind of think about that kind of thing is, yeah, you'll probably need a reference a lot when you're kind of learning to paint that sort of thing. But over time, it kind of becomes a bit like memorizing a formula. I don't know if anyone else in chat is particularly into mathematics or physics, but when I was like 18, I studied as part of my A-levels, which is, I think, the UK equivalent to college. I studied maths and physics, and so there were an absolute ton of formulas to memorize. And I find sometimes that art and learning to reliably paint certain things is almost like learning a formula. You learn where shadows commonly pile up, you learn kind of the flow of the shapes, so you don't end up needing to look at reference all the time. Having said that, this hand is giving me trouble. But I think that's because it's in a slightly weird pose in the first place. Sometimes I have to like look at my own hands while I do this sort of thing. Yeah, I was quite an academic kid. My folks were like, okay, we're going to support that you like art, but you're also going to have to study other subjects in case that doesn't work out for you. So I took A-levels in maths, physics, and I also design tech. I can make you a mean set of shelves. I really enjoy woodworking, actually. I miss doing it a lot. I'm kind of looking forward to when we've kind of finished doing the house and we can start doing other hobbies again. I want to do some diorama making with my partner for his Star Wars Legion. I want to make some cool battlegrounds for those, which is going to involve doing some basic woodworking and stuff, so I'm excited for that. Yeah, I think you could also say it's like language. It's basically like anything where you have to learn something repetitive, it can be compared to. I only use maths and physics as an example because they were the other kind of subjects I took. I wish I'd taken a language, actually. I really enjoy languages now more as an adult than I did as a kid. Alright, I think before I clock off for the day, we're going to do one more thing. We're going to do the hair, because I know quite a lot of people like the white hair painting process. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to grab the starting purple from the eyebrows and use that to kick us off here. And the first step is always just whacking in the base colour, which with white hair usually starts off as a sort of greyish purple. See, the funny thing is, I think I'm actually grateful that they did make me take maths and physics, because those two things really helped me get, I think, my my second job, because I managed to get an A and a B in those subjects for my A-levels. So it kind of helped me when I was job hunting afterwards. I think it helped me get my job at the games company, because it was like, okay, cool, she can do art, but you know, she can also do other kind of problem solving, and she can kind of understand where our programmers are coming from a bit more. So I'd say it helped in that respect. It still gave me one heck ton of stress and a lot of mental health issues when I was trying to do it when I was like 17. My birthday is also right at the very end of the school year, so I was taking my A-levels when I was 17 rather than 18. And my baby mind, gosh, I can't believe I actually got through it. Like, if I had to do my maths and physics A-levels again now, I think I'd just have a proper breakdown. Because I just can't keep that sort of stuff in my memory anymore. Oh yeah, 3D printing is super fun. I've actually done some 3D printing. I can do 3D modeling. I've done quite a bit of that. I did quite a lot at uni. A friend of mine has a 3D printer, so I've used it for making dungeon terrain before. I think I actually have some here. I can show you some. I I have all this terrain pieces. Do I have any good ones that are actually painted? Yeah, I do. Cool. So these I made like a couple of years ago. They are 3D painted dungeon tiles. Kind of see, they kind of clip together. This is after I've painted them. I had a whole dungeon's worth, but I don't really use them because all my D&D friends live too far away to play in person, which I think is a problem a lot of D&D players have. I would love to get all the cool Dwarven Forge stuff if I could afford it, but it just wouldn't be worth it when my friends live so far away. Okay, let's finish popping in this hair. Yeah, I know, exactly. And my secondary school did a thing where we actually took our GCSEs a year early so that we'd have 3 years to focus on our A-levels, so we could take an extra A-level subject, which meant I took all of my GCSEs when I was 14. That's too baby to do like super important life-determining exams. Oh, Coley! Congratulations for getting your shots. I wish I could get mine. It's partially my own fault because since we moved house, I still haven't signed up to our local doctor's surgery. But to be fair, they haven't started offering the shot to people my age anyway, so. Bit slower over here. Okay, there is our hair base layer in. Oh, and yeah, painting Drow is always good fun. So what we're going to do now, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this, making sure that lock is on. We're going to travel up the spectrum, passing by pink, which is where we're going to start. Just giving it kind of a once over with this lighter pink colour. Waiting for Photoshop. And then from pink, I work my way up to a kind of greyish orange. And then finally, a slightly kind of flaxen platinum. And then what I do is I will stick a Gaussian blur on the whole thing. Like so, that's about right. And then I can start actually rendering out the hair. So I drop from the, actually I might just adjust the brightness slightly. Usually what I do is I drop from the darkest point of the hair, which is here. I will go to my hair rendering brush, which is this one. And, whoops, Photoshop's starting to lag a little bit because I'm going too fast for it. Often I will start by just filling in these little parting bits. And moving outwards from the parting, starting to render. And then this guy has a quite small parting, so it's not going to be too much detail there. It's not just a small parting, it's more like a starburst than it is a line parting. But yeah, I'm just going to take a slightly lighter colour than the darkest shadow for these bits and just start rendering some of the other shadows. And then coming out, we'll do the fringe. Or the bangs, as I know they're also called. And right now it is looking very purple, but do not worry, we will address that. It's not a permanent state of affairs. Okay, now just moving on to do the little ponytail bit. And then what we can do is we can grab a lighter colour from elsewhere and essentially do the reverse thing on this side, which is introducing light rather than shadow to areas which are going to catch the light. Alright, and finally I am going to just grab yet another slightly darker purple and just use that on the areas which are going to be the most in shadow. A little bit over here in the ponytail, because there's quite a lot of shadows where it kind of bundles up. And then finally I'm going to grab the very lightest colour, that really bright kind of platinum. And we're going to just introduce that to a few other key places to really bring it out of the shadows. So there's some hair there. And bring it onto the ponytail a little bit here. It's kind of the opposite here. My friend works for the NHS and they have now had 2 different vaccinations because they've already had corona twice, which is awful. Alright, and that's the basic shape of the hair. Now we're going to do a little bit of magic. What I'm actually going to do first, I'm just going to grab a kind of a black, very dark greyish black colour, snatch a really small brush just to colour in the kind of hair tie. And then what I'm going to do, first of all, we're going to take the line art, set it to clipping mask, grab a very pale pink. We're going to colour in the line art by just scribbling over the lines with our new colour. This is one of my favourite tricks for painting pale hair like this. Which just kind of makes the line art a little bit more gentle. Then, what we're going to do is, I'm just going to fiddle with the colours a little bit. So for example, I can up the blue, I can up the gold, I can up the red, make it real pink, or I can make it real blue. What I'm actually going to do here is I'm just going to add a tiny bit of cyan there. It's a cool little trick though. We're going to make a new layer on top, set it to clipping mask, multiply. Pick a sort of peachy yellow, take a large brush and just roughly paint all around kind of the rim of where the light's hitting. Go to Gaussian blur again, set that to a fairly large blur. Then I'm just going to adjust the colour. Often I will turn down the saturation, just a bit. And there we have some lovely white hair. So I'm going to merge it down, and the very last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a bit of love on the overlines layer. This is going to be for those final really bright highlights, which are only going to go on the very lightest bits of the hair, such as here on the bangs, and over here. And I'm just going to put a little bit on the ponytail as well. And finally, switching to my original favourite brush, going all the way down to a size 4, I want a really tiddly brush for this, adding some little just loose bits of hair. Not many, you don't want to overdo it, but this can really just help bring the hair to life. And there we have it. There is painting white hair for this Drow character. So the blur thing, it's a very minor thing, but it basically just softens the light where it's hitting. So that's kind of why I use it. Alright, and I think based on the time and the fact that I'm playing D&D in less than an hour, that is where we will leave it for today. So I'm going to drop some links in chat. If you want to keep up to date with when I am streaming and kind of see this piece finished along with other art, Best place to follow me is Twitter. It's kind of like the hub for my socials. I'll post on there when stuff's happening. For example, I'm planning to open commissions next week. If you are on the Patreon, you will probably get a post on Monday. If you are not on the Patreon, general commissions will be opening probably on the Friday next week, but it is worth mentioning that they are going to be very limited. I'm taking fewer commissions this time around, purely because it's a bit of a nightmare to manage them all otherwise, so do keep that in mind. Speaking of Patreon, if you, like I say, if you are a Patreon supporter, you get priority, so you basically get 5 days to reserve a commission ahead of general commissions. That's if you are a Patreon supporter over the Mero tier. There's also a bunch of other benefits on Patreon. You get to see exclusive artwork that I don't upload anywhere else. You get to see works in progress. I've got a few step-by-step tutorials on there. I want to make some more soon. And yeah, that's kind of what's going on Patreon. ArtStation is the place to check out if I spelt it wrong. If you just want to see my portfolio, ArtStation is the place to go. I have just got Artful, but there's not much on there yet, so I haven't kind of programmed a link to that yet. Next up, Instagram. I have an Instagram. I post my art on there. I also post costume stuff, miniature stuff, and lots of plant stuff lately. Quick question. I use Photoshop. You'd like to get drawing? So for Photoshop, I use the license. I pay £9.99 per month for my Photoshop license. I have used a paid once license in the past. And that was fine, really. I have the monthly pay now just because Photoshop is the piece of software that I've got the most experience in, and it's kind of essential to my livelihood, so that's why I give my money to Adobe. Okay, any other links? YouTube. I have a YouTube. I've been really bad at updating VODs, but I'm planning to break that bad habit and actually upload today's one, hopefully today. So do keep an eye on YouTube if you want to catch up with past streams, and keep an eye on new things that I'm planning to add to the channel soon. And for now, I think that is everything. Oh, not quite everything. One last link. If you enjoy the music I've used in my stream, it's by a wonderful artist named Kai Engel. They do fantastic royalty-free music, which is perfect for streaming, D&D. It's just good ambient stuff, so do go check out their work. Okay, I think that's kind of everything. I will be here again streaming at the same time. That's 5 p.m. UK time on Friday. So if you've enjoyed today's stream, do consider joining me then. Please consider throwing a sub my way if you would like to. They honestly help massively. Small streamers like myself, they mean a lot to us. So if you have an Amazon Prime sub you haven't used, please consider chucking it my way. I would be immensely grateful. So I think that's everything. So thank you all so very much for joining me today. It's been really nice to get back into streaming and hanging out and answering questions again. So I look forward to seeing you all again on Friday. But until then, stay safe, look after each other, and I will see you all very soon. Goodbye!